Welcome to Ever Beyond,
broadcast through the Wolf Spirit Media Network.
Be prepared to leave your belief systems behind as we go beyond teachers, beyond gurus, beyond duality, ever beyond.
Please join us in the chat room at www.wolfspiritradio.com/listen. You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
Oh yes, you're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio. This is JP, and here we are. It's when is it? Oh, 23rd. No, it's not. It's 27th, and it's 2300. And all the dates are upside down. It's August, and it's nearly September. Whatever happened to the summer? It's been raining all the time. I don't know what's happening over your side, but I think it's been a bit damp over your side. Anywho, tonight's guest is an old friend of ours. I asked him, would you like to come and hang out this afternoon? Yeah, because he's good. And you don't need to introduce yourself because do you want, actually, Andy, it's Andrew Bartzis. Everybody knows who you are. Let's hit the ground running. Just before we came on the air, you said, I just had a past life regression. And, yes. I said, okay, stay there. At this point you can, pull the little pin out of the, little chock mechanism and, away you go. How are you? What's going on?
I'm doing great today. One of the reasons I did the past life regression today was I do it cyclically just to go and discover what's there. And the person I use is very, very skilled at hypnotherapy, and I can actually go into a trance. Now, those that know me, I can do it not in a trance, but when I am in a trance, a whole different language comes forth. Like when you first started doing shows with me, it took a while to understand my lingo. And a whole new translation of language, A whole new translation of language comes forward. So for me, this was the new iteration of what I'm already experiencing, the new colloquial now, and to be able to be in a trance format with a person I greatly trust going through the healings that I was going through, because I lost someone very, very close to me last year. And, I still had, morning issues. Four of my best friends died in 5 months over this last year. And for me, it was about discovering why, finding closure, so that the mourning process for me could fully end.
Well,
new language.
That is, that's important on lots of levels, for everybody as well as for you, because I think there is something that is stuck there for so many people. And it's the pin that holds everything, in tension, that causes our distress issues even to this day. And so, obviously you've only just kind of come out of it, but, yep. Do you want to share anything with us about about the journey or how you iterated out of the journey?
Let me just edit for radio here. So after I went into the deep trance where I'm in very, very deep theta and right on the verge of delta, and that's where I become lucid. A lucid dreaming state. Now, that's one of my particular skill sets, and the lady that works with me, I've done many, many regressions with her, and she can tell when I'm in the lucid dreaming state versus my sympathetic or parasympathetic state. That is a different aspect where my voice comes through slightly different at a younger or older age. So when I work with someone that can tell the intricacies about me when I'm in deep theta or in light delta, what ended up coming up was the particular karmic contracts of those that died and the significance of their particular passings and how my unseen world was working with them. even though my seen world didn't have the closure that it was looking for, the unseen world did. And it helped unpack a whole zip file of videos that helped me understand what went on in the unseen life review worlds of those that passed on that were close to me. A lot of tears, a lot of healing, let me tell you. A lot of tears and a lot of healing came out during that trance state, but I understood in the depthness of my soul what my presence meant to their lifetime and their post-lifetime, their life review.
So that's beautiful. And you've presumably there was some part of, were we also talking about fragments? That there's a fragment of you that wasn't able to move on and you were able to retrieve? Or it was just completely about your own?
No, it was about their fragments. So a lot of times when a person dies, they shatter into thousands of pieces. And the astral life and review is about bringing those pieces together. And in a sense, when I went to that trance and went to the deep delta, I discovered the parts that didn't want to go back to their original selves. Was it a transversing and a healing of those parts? In some scenarios it was, and in the other ones it was more closure for me that hurt and harmed part still needs its time gestating in the astral world before it returns to the singularity of itself.
I can understand that. You can be, it's like stepping out of a crowded area and just sitting for a few minutes to allow your vibration to, just everything to ring out, all the reverberations to play their way out until you return back to something still.
Right. So another part of we'll call it just the trance regression, was once I went through the recapitulation and re-understanding of my seen world understanding, the Andrew that doesn't want to know everything, because if I knew everything, there'd be no point being here in this world. The agenda, contract spiritually driven person. And then it came to a point where new contracts were being shown from those beings that had passed on and how they're helping me from the other side, going into what wasn't an uncertain future for me, because I've had the certainty of my future for a very long time. It's just a matter of how long will it take for people to perceive that certainty of a future for themselves. So
it's a bit like growing into yourself, isn't it?
Yeah. And as I began to see the lines of creation were going from those that have passed on, and the way that they're trying to, let's just say, positively influence those that are still connected to them and have not finished the mourning process, how they're trying to direct dreaming frequencies of visitation to me or to other teachers on the similar path. Very, very teary moment for me. I have to get a little teary as I'm, because I can still re-experience it. It's so fresh in my mind right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fine. Take your time, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's a, I can see that you're talking about, like, it's another octave of understanding, which implies a greater size universe or multiverse or container item place here.
Yeah. So the part that sticks out the most during this regression was where I engaged superluminal thinking. So I could think at the speed of light, and I was not limited to this dream frequency of a reality. So I could transverse the entire uni-worlds layered over on top of each other at superluminal thought speeds. And that's where I began hyper-processing my present, the potency of my presence in my body that was in a regression state, that was in high theta or low delta. And I reached a point where I was in full delta and full REM process, but still talking. And I was talking at superluminal thinking speed, as I was instantly translating my superluminal experience to language, which you know is my special ability. I mean, look at all the shows we did together.
Oh yeah.
How many wows came out of that?
Yeah. There's always a wow factor. And, so, you've got, you did a recording of it?
Yes, I did. I won't publicly release that.
But always good to have one, you know. When stuff comes that fast, you can miss it easily.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've had the superluminal process before in some of my other regressions, as well as not being in a regression, but this one I didn't trigger, I didn't initiate, it just began, and this process was for putting together all of these puzzle pieces. It was like gathering puzzle pieces from thousands of different versions of myself existing in other frequencies of nonlinear time. And each of them had a unique piece that made a gigantic difference to the puzzle of this world.
And that's a lot. There's puzzles in this world that I believe, and you know, we've spoken about it before a lot, that it's to do with, this kind of complex subconscious tangle of emotions that no one has really gone, you know, every time anyone tries to go down there is like full of tangles and weeds and thorns and, I'm not going there again.
Yep.
So it takes it's what they call a psychonaut to get down there and to pull out the ancient relics. Because that's where the truth is. And, you know, you're the galactic historian. It got, did you find out any more about that? Actually,
I have over the last 10 months. So yes, there are lots of additional pieces that no longer have dangling modifiers to them. Lines that don't connect into a potentiality, even though the potentiality is in existence. But yes, and it is about being the witness as an I am presence being in the instrument of DNA technology, choosing to experience the 8th color of time, which is the culmination of consciousness and its existence in a 7-color experiencing world that's transversing the galactic central plane and moving out of 7-color density universal galactic space and moving to 8th density color space.
Now, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Because yesterday, I'm just saying, yesterday, we were looking at my shed and it's made of corrugated iron and, we're saying, let's make a rainbow. And, but how many are there? Oh, there's 8. I said, that's alright, you just put magenta in there. So, the idea of an 8-color spectrum, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
We as DNA instrument experience bodies can experience up to 70 colors of time. And that's why our technology, DNA as an instrument of experience, is wanted by so many other beings in the galaxy and universes. Most of the skin suits out there are 3, 4, 5 color time experiencing suits. We start at 7 and can go up to 70.
All right, is that like they say, you know, dogs can only see that and this? I mean, actually, I've noticed I've got a green laser, really bright one, and with the cats, they don't notice it. You know, they like the blue ones and they like the red ones, but they don't see the green ones. It's really strange.
Mm-hmm. So yes, you can use that metaphor. But there's a layer of time to that color too, which determines how fast the soul can grow based off of experience in light. The more experiences, the more density of a light being you are, and the more density of light you are and you want to bring into a world that has skin suits that can only experience smaller frequencies of time, you cannot encode the fullness of your being in it.
So it's a bit like driving a push-pull car, not a push-pull, like a kid's car. They might have 1 gear, where, you can most efficiently use a 10-gear device. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So, it's about developing a finer grained version of the skin suit. And is that connected also with the active versions of all the DNA strands? And what does it exactly mean to have 12 strands, 13 strands, la la la?
So taking away the light worker mumbo jumbo word salads.
Yeah.
Because most of that is all that it is, just word salads light workers created. DNA is an encodement of light that is not bound to linear Roman numeral time. So you are simultaneously existing as many I ams on this world and other worlds too. We are in a uni-world layered over each other, and each is a form of perception of different frequencies of time. So strands represent different frequencies of time you can simultaneously have some form of awareness or bilocate into without damaging your current experience. To take skill sets from another frequency and transverse them through superluminal thinking to innate DNA programs within yourself. So if you needed DNA light mechanics knowledge, you could go to one that has and say, hey, I need to duplicate this and bring it to myself. And it says, okay, you have some cool ass experiences on Earth. Send me back what it is to have sex and all this other stuff. Fair trade.
And that happens, right? Okay.
Yes. All the time.
I see.
You're giving them a 7-color experience, which is, porn on steroids for them.
So yeah, I mean, if you were to say, okay, it's like a multicast, what you used to have on the radio. If they wanted a stereo broadcast, they actually transmitted on two, it's quadraphonic, that's right, yeah, 2 stereo, FM stations, set to the same thing, and you had them set up at the corner of the room, and they would do these multicasts so that you could get more of a dimension. And also I'm brought to thinking about the yellow book, device they call the chronovisor. You could have one that did sound. No, one did pictures and one does sound. And you can kind of sync them together. But, so they're like, each is a different band of frequency, of course. One's, visible light. So presumably you could use a chronovisor to look at other bands of light during any other time. Oh, that's interesting. Anyway.
Different eras of light.
Yeah. So, yes, time as color. There's a thought as well. So as we, cause whenever, we watched these Star Treks and stuff like that, and they had this predominantly bluish tone. I mean, even look at that. I've got an LED, switch here that's got the exact blue that they used to have down the corridors in the Enterprise. This
nice.
Special blue kind of thing. And so those blue colors, those higher frequencies were, that's what came in the 60s, wasn't it? The more vibrant colors, as a presage, and nowadays we can have any color you like, cause we got RGB and all that stuff. Yeah. Hey, does anyone do, light based on 7 frequencies? Like, instead of RGB, you got you'd have a Roy Gabiv light. Oh, that's a thought.
So, the galaxy is broken up into sections of 1, 2 color experiencing areas, 3, 4, 5 color experiencing areas, and then smaller sections that are 6, and then even smaller sections that are 7 color experiencing areas. And there's a sea of consciousness out there that has all these different tide factors that are going from different color-based experiences as they're the sea and the ocean of consciousness is that has many streams of consciousness in it that make up many different frequencies of soul families who immigrate or, go like ducks going south for the winter, so on and so forth. So yes, there is another RGB, another version of it when you are beginning to experience 8th color time, meaning you're done with the sea of consciousness that's in the first 6 colors. You've made the majority of your manifestations are in 7 color, and now you begin the universal hunt to discover the 8th color as an experience, which is then a transcendence from the sea of consciousness that's embroiled into the resolution of what 6 and 7 color time mean as I am agenda-driven beings. Genda meaning the spiritual contracts that you're born with as part of the sea of universal or galactic consciousness.
Lovely. There's the Andrew we know.
Can I get a ceremonial wow?
Yeah. Actually, I keep thinking about getting the, what I want is to have a crowd going, and a crowd going, wow. Just loads of people going, wow. Yeah, that would be good. So, Vanessa is asking, how does that relate to the dimensions? Yeah, so how does color and dimension relate to each other? How does that, how's that work then?
This is a little bit more of a reach for people to understand. So, dimensions are separate than density. Dimensions are perceived. It is your density of soul that has been on thousands of celestial worlds that determines how much light experience or age that the soul has, which determines how many multiple simultaneous existences it can have without overwhelming a stream of consciousness that's part of a sea of consciousness. And then dimensions determines how many times a density, let's say a fifth density being, can reduplicate themselves as a perception-based experiences in other dimensions, which are still layered over the uni-world of infinite space that Earth is. Now, Earth is not the only infinite space planet out there, but there are only like a handful. But Earth has unique chakra points called womb chakras, which I've talked about before, where those denser beings of light who choose to live on the surface where those womb chakras are become masterful DNA engineers. They can build 1 billion trees and then psychically graft them onto a blank Akashic record world to start the foundation of a new world. They're world builders. So here, dimensions represents your density of how many times what you can perceive or direct manifest through other membrane dimensions that connect to other frequencies of light. Now, light itself has not been to every aspect of the galaxy or universe. Dimensions represents the totality of where light has gone, and seekers of wisdom and knowledge and light go to the end of dimensions and wait for the galaxy or universe to expand where new light can go, and they are then on the undiscovered galactic or universal territory as a stream of light, bringing light to the new dimensions.
That sounds kind of like Wolf Spirit Radio. We've been here for a while. We're waiting for everybody else to catch up.
Pretty much.
I was thinking about that today. But it's not real. It's a kind of, it's a pioneering. Because it's a bit like the future's a place where you can hang out for a bit. But like not everybody's there yet. And I remember you talking a few years ago about these towns or like, dream cities.
Yes.
What's been happening with those dream cities? Because they were empty, weren't they? Like nobody was there at the time.
Oh, they're full now. They're full. There's about 3.5 trillion beings starting to plan lifetimes that have completely bypassed the archonic grid. The archonic grid can no longer fully control the life and death process daily, because that's ultimately the power they had. If X number of things die, only X amount of things can be born into all 3 time frequencies of Earth, subsurface, surface, and astral. Because there are still births in all 3 frequencies. If what goes out comes in. Now the surface is what the archons are trying to control, because that's the commodities market that they're trading universe or galaxy wide as DNA-based slavery. And knowingness that they're stepping on the journeys of divine co-creative beings.
So in this dream city, did you say that they were built by the archons?
No, they were built by the last of the Atlanteans who knew the time travel wars were going to get really bad. So they built them and put them out of phase of time, so they were completely empty, and then they would phase back into time as consciousness became more aware, and other frequencies of beings came out of timeline fallout shelters, and then they could go through this haze of race amnesia and race remembrance and begin to find the journey to these places, and then essentially like Lord of the Rings, light the fire in the tower that lights the fire in all the other towers for all the soul families that are in the sea of consciousness to go, hey, there's the spark of light we've been looking for.
That's very interesting. That's another metaphor that came out today. To be, like a lighthouse on the rock. Everybody's lost at sea.
Yep.
And that's how we're treated as well by the whole legal system. All that stuff. So that's a very interesting. Lots of metaphors here, and yeah, lots to see. Lots of sea, yes, but drowning in everybody seems to be flooded in some way, overwhelmingly with emotion, physically in places like Texas, all the rains. I mean, it's been raining all summer here. We haven't had an apple. We got good blackberries, but no apples. So
the summer that went by lightning fast over here too.
Yeah. And,
well, you are Scotland, so I mean, you are going to have, a little bit more rain than some of the other areas that aren't as north.
True. I mean, we do have more rain than normal, and that's why it's so beautiful and green. That's true. Oh, I need oil for this chair. Listen to that.
You need a new chair.
Oh, maybe, I don't know, it's quite comfy, but,
It took me a long time to get rid of my old chair that was my throne that I did 3 years of shows on until finally like, it's gotta go. It's hurting my back.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and, well, it served me well. It's a better chair than the last one anyway. You just have to slowly climb up the chair scale. So, meanwhile, back at the complex universe that we live in, we've been chatting for years, you and I, and like you say, some of the things that you were talking about 5, 6, 7 years ago are now coming into public domain, knowing and, where am I going with this?
Years. Yeah, we've talked about all the stuff that I was saying. You sent me that article about the babies in gold foil found in China.
That's right. And that was an attempt to smuggle. Now, was that 2011 or something? Maybe not. 2013. Yeah.
That was on a Soul Expression show.
That's right. And that's still available in the Wolf Spirit archives. And Andrew was talking about trying to smuggle DNA off the planet wrapped in gold. And people are, wrapped in gold? How can anything be wrapped in gold? And tell us the story, Andrew.
So, although they were trying to prevent the DNA through going through dimensional rift degradation, so they would surround it in gold. And then, maybe 2 months later, 3 months later, you sent me a link to an article that you found in China about fetuses wrapped in gold foil.
Exactly. So, examples of an underground, overground, intergalactic mafia kind of operation. Because it's like, who'd have thought? It'd be exactly the same as it is down here, out
Think
there.
of like prohibition. Everyone wants the alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, we're also seeing, it's a rather horrific thing. There's this old bloke, jagging himself with this teenager sitting next to him. People actually injecting teenagers' blood into their own bodies so they could feel get the life out of their blood. I mean, how close is that to being a vampire itself? I don't know.
That is a vampire.
Yeah.
You just don't have the teeth and go, blah, blah, I'm here to suck your blood. Blah, blah,
yeah.
your blood.
I've lost the charm.
Here's a tip. Leave me alone. Now, remember me talking about how politics would become like a big Three Stooges event?
Yeah.
That's what we have with Trump, giant Three Stooges event. Mm. That was the only way I could describe it, because this isn't politics going now in world affairs. It's a giant reality show going bad.
Well, I mean, he was a sort of reality show kind of character.
Yep.
And so wherever he goes, it becomes that, painted with it, kind of people
That's
with
right.
him. So, yeah. But in a way, it's a good thing that, there he is, and people are seeing all the snakes and anteaters? Snakes and lizards that are around him, uncovering themselves because of the spotlight on him is being reflected onto them.
I don't necessarily agree with that, because the deep state's the deep state. And I kind of think right now what is really going on is they're just letting him be him, which is fine for their form of narrative. The global narrative, it really isn't going to change if he tweets all this or that, unless he starts tweeting about super top secret stuff no one's supposed to know about, which I doubt he's even been exposed to. Now, because he did not have a actually confirmed head of the Supreme Court, because Scalia died the year before, and in 24 hours he was cremated before even an autopsy was done. Now, Scalia was the head of the Dark Wizards that determines the law, and he was supposed to put the curse on Trump so he would be under control. So I kind of believe Trump has got his own mercenary magical force that's trying to combat. But again, he's not a good guy at that level. They've all done many nasty things to get there.
Indeed, but like you say, it's all a you call it Three Stooges, which is a particularly American thing.
Benny Hill, Three Stooges. Yeah.
Not
Benny Hill, Three Stooges.
Benny Hill.
Yeah. I mean, look at the way he treats women.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see. Benny Hill. I see. That's the same. All right, I get you now. All right, yeah. So if the Three Stooges equals Benny Hill in Britain, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right, now I get you. All right, I get you. Okay. So yeah, and he's got that apprentice personality, and not that I ever watch any of this rubbish, but you can see it. Looking at, we have this, the equivalent is Alan Sugar. And if Alan Sugar ever became Prime Minister, it'd probably be the same sort of thing.
Or worse.
Or worse. Yeah. So, let's,
one of the other things that I talked about that has its own waveform of coming to trueness was that a significant portion of the presenters in our industry would have massive meltdowns and really be going through an advanced revealing of their true selves of not really being teachers, which you can now see in the, Blue Chicken drama with Corey Goode and David Wilcock. They're selling fear, and fear's not, people aren't buying fear right now.
Yeah, there's just so many things going on in the whatever we call it. Cause it's like, it's a mall of different shops, as it were. Everybody's got their own little thing.
What I see is the whole industry that was conspiracy, that was consciousness, spirituality, that was self-help, is now one giant industry right now with no overlord or seen or unseen hands manipulating it. And we all have this perception that we're free presenters when in fact we really aren't. We're a soup of creation that basically says conspiracy discovered everything conscious and spirituality needed for ascendance, and everything self-help the people in conspiracy need because they gone paranoid. So they're all one giant industry being run by a bunch of retired puritanical women. Okay, who are enforcing puritanical beliefs, not an unlimited point of view and your own divine co-creative choice. That's the light worker as an industry.
Puritanical. Where are I? There we go. Puritanical. Oh, what's the, yeah, do you want to go a bit further? I mean, cause, you've been doing some circuits, you've appeared live, you've met and hung out with these people.
Yep.
And it is, as you say, it's an industry now, and there's always been a, talk circuit network.
Now it's an industry blended with two other industries, the self-help industry and the consciousness and spirituality industry. When the book industry really died, it all became one industry.
I see. So so it's what people are writing about.
Right. Correct. But it doesn't have the scene writer's control that the book industry did. Okay?
And there's bloggers as well.
That means a lot of crap has also made its way out. Why is Hollow Earth such a big subject matter for people? It's just a mind virus we got over during the Dark Ages.
You mean Flat Earth?
Flat Earth.
Yeah.
Flat Earth.
Yeah. But, it's amazing, and it's actually, just to follow on to the Flat Earth, somebody's actually put some graffiti, in a town in Inverness, not very far from here. It's like there's a graffiti, the world is flat. And, it's almost laughable, except there are lots and lots more people who are starting to take it seriously.
Because it's got all of the word salads that have some form of pattern recognition into a circular argument of never ending.
Absolutely. Yeah. No sense of proportion.
Right.
Yeah, hang on. Hello. Oh, so my microphone was going a bit fuzzy. So what would you like to, actually, no, what I'd like to talk about, Andrew, is we're in such a period of change. Like, this is almost like the moment that we were waiting for a few years ago, because there is so much madness, so much, like you say, people are blowing off and showing their true colors, and melting down. That was the word you used, not blowing up, but melting down. It means something else in America. Always, you gotta be careful. You gotta be so careful. Anyway, it's
like fetus versus foetus.
Yeah, that's right. And what the hell's a POTUS? Anyway,
it's a dead fetus.
So, yeah, this moment of everything, to me, I've been saying the moment of the crossing is coming. And do you feel that this particular eclipse that we've just passed through has been a particularly significant eclipse, or is it one of a build-up until the big one?
It's one of a build-up, but it doesn't culminate into a big build-up.
Right.
It's still an individual-based experience. Now, from the very first day I came out when I was on Tracy's show, October 31st, 2012, I've said that nothing will happen tomorrow until you make it happen. The aliens won't come down. The Hollow Earth won't help you. The RV won't reset. Gold won't do nothing. The economy won't crash until you get up off your lazy couch and do something that's self-healing and self-nurturing and transcends your own consciousness into the bigger awareness of the legacy yourself is passing on to you as an infinite creator being. So it will culminate for those individuals who are out doing their own great work, which is self-healing and self-nurturing, so they can expand their consciousness and knowingness and learn about the functions of this placebo-based reality we live in. So yes, there is a significance to this one. Those that have done the great work on themselves and have learned that they cannot martyr themselves, that they cannot enable others, that they can only be a shining example from their own authentic truth of what they can do versus what the theory of what they think they can do. Because there's a massive difference between what you think and what you actually can do. And then you put the mechanics of belief behind it. Thinking is one thing. Creating a theory is a defined thinking, but theory is not proven. There is this times that we have false placebo where we think we have a theory like flat earth, and all of a sudden we're putting all this faith and energy behind it, and then we believe in it. That's why it's a placebo-based reality, and everyone right now has their own form of truth, and no one else can judge it in any way, shape, or form, and that's really what this eclipse meant. Those that have done the good work and can let go of judgment and understand it's a placebo-based reality, and if you invest your own placebo into yourself, you will leapfrog the next eclipse and the next eclipse and leave behind, through the bifurcation process and separation of densities, those that do not want to heal themselves.
Hold on a second. Just reel that back about that much. That was a very important thing. This, just before the bifurcation things. You want to say that again?
The self-healing and self-nurturing work. That ultimately is the greatest work you can do at this time. It's not about putting a blog up. It's not about marching in the streets. It's not about mastering your powers. It's about self-healing and self-nurturing and the now to expand thy consciousness. So transcendence is a potential in your future as you go forward and leapfrog ahead of all those others who are not ready or are there to cock block everyone else.
That's the one. Thank you. Because that's really it, isn't it? I mean, there's no savior outside. There's no, there's no book because everybody's unique, but everybody's got their own tools. Mm-hmm. And it's a bit like, some motorbikes have you lift up the seat and there's a little packet, and inside this pocket is a toolkit that is specifically for that motorbike. And I believe that we all have one of those. And during meditation and things like that, we can kind of unpack that.
Correct.
There
are different modalities that have survived history or new ones that have been created that are that tool. I call it the a la carte system. What works in the moment is what you need. If the tool fits for the job, then it works. Use it. Just to have no shame, blame, or guilt, or depression, regression, obsession about doing that work with a tool that you might not think is the right one, but in fact it is in that moment. You only can do what you know you can do until you're on that time where you're in the undiscovered territory of your own self and going, all my skills and coping skills and tools that I have can only take me so far. Now I must make this next step myself. That's the individual journey that so many people confuse. They want a companion inside themselves as they're going on their individual journey. It doesn't work that way. Companions are on the journey, are part of your scenic process, but it's still only you that can do the inner work, and it's still only you who can authentically initiate self-healing and self-nurturing. And it's funner when you have a partner, but it's still you inside your mind processing, healing, and doing the work.
Never heard a word said. Well, this thing is just getting on my nerves. Hang on. I have to whittle a switch at the back of this microphone because it's, there we go. Hello. $600 worth of microphone. It's like,
It's like the Millennium Falcon. Just hit it in the box over there and it'll work.
That's right. Give it a good whack and it'll be fine. Oh. Now, for some reason, that disconnected my chat room. That should have no connection. But there we go. All right, apartment though.
Your haunted microphone.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you never know. John Slow. That should be fun. So yeah, this is the inner work that we're always looking outside of ourselves, looking for new information. When's this going to happen? When's so-and-so coming? And yet always the message comes through. It's your own stuff. Work on your own stuff. Well, how do I work on my own stuff? Well, you can use this tool that I can give you for a fee. Oh, right. Okay. So, there's always, there always seems to be a blockage or a gap between healing and how can I put this? Because people talk about, there's got to be an energy exchange.
It does.
And do you want to talk about this a little bit?
Sure. So first thing we got to understand, when it comes to this world, we live in the Babylonian money cursed era. Yeah, the Babylonian money magic era. So everything about money is upside down and inverted, and instant gratification as a process is a thing. Healing is a process, not an event. And too many people exchange their dollars for X system, yet have no discipline, no sacred discipline, don't know the difference between recreational practice and genius practice. Okay? Once you understand those four little things, discipline, sacred discipline, recreation, and sacred recreation, you can begin your own bifurcation of yourself to determine if I'm going to let go of the old shells that hold me back. There are plenty of systems out there that are free that can transcend every one of us out there if we actually engaged our sacred genius. Okay?
Okay.
Simple as that.
So it's all there if you're willing to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, then you pay somebody to do some of the work for you. But that's not really doing the work, is it?
It can be, because there are specific signature frequency teachers who help expand your awareness, so sacred discipline becomes something to you, so you can begin the journey to be your own self-illuminated master.
So tell me a little bit about sacred discipline and... No, so there was discipline and sacred discipline, and there was recreation and sacred recreation. So one of them might be having... So recreation might be having a couple of beers and watching the match, but sacred recreation might be having a ceremony or something. Something like that?
No, that's still on sacred discipline. So sacred recreation is, you've done your good work, you've done your slave work, and now I need to regenerate. And I'm going to find something that gives me pure joy and happiness, and I'm going to do it with the allness of my being. Because it rejuvenates your journey so you can go farther as a seeker of knowledge.
Lovely.
Okay?
So that's an excuse, as they say, to enjoy yourself, or a reason to enjoy yourself.
Purpose.
Purpose is good. People like purpose. It's one of the things that as soon as you've had your food, purpose is the next thing. What shall I do? What do I really want?
We have an infinite amount of purposes, or purpose. Pick one. Pick 50. We are not limited to one point of view. We are on the journey to understand the unlimited point of view. And everyone will come to the unlimited point of view in their own way, in their own time. And we cannot step on the journey of others to their process of the unlimited point of view. This is where so many people in the light worker industry make a mistake. They step on another person's journey.
Absolutely. This is quite a salient point. In these times, I suppose we all wanted to have somebody to step over the threshold into the new world with. I think that was
leader. We are coming into times where we are equal co-creation, non-competitional, non-hierarchical, non-duality beings. That's the level of what transcendence means. Imagine being a non-competitional being. That means anything that's trying to compete with you is already lost, because non-competition nullifies the essence of competition. Okay? Non-hierarchical order means there is no pecking order. And not hierarchical order is not innately bad. It's just used and abused in the law of one scenario here in this DNA commodity trading world.
So,
non-duality means we are a singularity being. Our world just doesn't tell us that now, until we engage sacred discipline and begin practicing of the rituals and ceremonies, so we can discover lucid dreaming again, high theta, low delta, or high delta and full trance, like I was in. It's your legacy. Everyone can do it. Everyone.
And in that state, there's it's like having the Google to the whole subconscious, entire galactic history. And not just Andrew Bartzis, but anyone really.
Anyone. And I've said that since day one. Anyone can do what I do. I have just practiced a lot since I was 9 years old and made it like a kid who's learned 20 languages by the time they're 12. It's innate in me as I go forward.
So
discipline versus sacred discipline. Discipline is, I gotta get up and go to the work, go to the slave job and make the money. That's discipline. Sacred discipline is, I no longer live in the slave job, and I want to learn these new skills, whether it's healing, meditation. I don't have any time. The slave job takes it away. Sacred discipline says I'm carving time out, or I'm etching my way out of my eternal struggle so I can be a moment-to-moment experiencing being, using sacred discipline to expand my awareness each day. That is living our mystical life daily, and that's the online course I teach, Living the Mystical Life Daily. It's a 6-week course. And we have a live event coming up October 5th through 8th in Seattle where we're teaching what it means to be a self-illuminated master who knows the difference between discipline and sacred discipline, recreation and sacred recreation. Those 4 basic concepts is all one needs to understand any system and any path. What I present in the course is how to perceive multidimensionality as a frequency of light, how to bring peace as a new frequency, as an emanation frequency and not an emulation frequency. So many people in this world emulate others, but aren't actually the emanation and never learn the truth of the message.
Yeah, it's like being painted white instead of shining like a light bulb.
Exactly.
And so the main part of this shining is to connect with the source within. You know, we've been through, you know, this is the old thing. Everybody should know all this by now.
It's the I am dreaming self. That's the non-duality expression.
Do you want to talk about the different layers, Andrew, as well? Like,
sure.
There's this I am self, but there's like who who am I in that? You know, how paints a picture for me.
So when you are a fetus in the womb, there is where you plan contracts, vows, agreements, potential futures, who's your first love, who's your first breakup, who's your 3rd grade teacher, so on and so forth. That is your blueprint. When you go through the birth canal of forgetting and are born, you are the living blueprint, like the construction company that has a blueprint to build a building, but when it's actually done, it's different than the original blueprint. We at any point in time can go back to our fetus in the mother's womb process through meditation, through high theta and low delta or high delta, and look at the original blueprint and compare it and contrast to our light process now. Okay? The I am is technology, so an infinitely encoded stream of light and a sea of consciousness can come to a celestial world, have ancestral relations on the physical world, and go through a frequency of linear time to create an agenda of birth to birth to birth. We are I am agenda-driven beings in duality through perception. Our dreaming self is the non-duality version of ourself who has the original blueprint as well as the living blueprint and is trying to make sure the right unseen resources come to us energetically. We as I am agenda-driven beings are in linear time. The non-duality side of us is not in linear time. They're in omnidirectional frequency time. That's why when so many people have mystical experiences and dreaming, time is irrelevant to them. That's why I call it no time. So agenda, non-agenda. Those are the 2 layers to understand of the I am as a technology of DNA experience.
So our dreaming being is more one than our waking being, but how come dreams don't make sense?
They do. The I am has an ego and a shadow that are in a sympathetic and a parasympathetic that have access to our precognitive skill sets. And sometimes our parasympathetic gives false precognition that leads to false synchronicities and false placebo initiations, which takes us down mind trails of confusion and so on and so forth. When one has a disciplined mind and understands the service in energetic light, they can see a mind trail for what it is. As transcending beings, are we here to be off the agenda? Technically, yes. So many of us are very old souls and have completed the entire wheel of experience in this 7-color time frequency. There's literally nothing new in the physical world for us to do. We're just doing repetition without illumination. Thus, why we are bringing the singularity and the duality together as an understand layered experience, kind of dovetailed over each other. We are still fully interconnected beings, and many people have had the mystical experience that defines them, but we aren't duality, we're singularity. That's what all the ayahuasca people, all the people on mushrooms and LSD during the 60s, 70s, and 80s, they all figured it out. We're all one. Yeah, we are. But the path to oneness as an I am agenda-driven being must be your agenda that you are creating with your sacred discipline as a daily practice. So it's repetition with illumination and no longer repetition for repetition's sake.
So you understand it as a training as opposed to just learning.
Yes.
Like you're in the idea that training is an active thing, that is, somebody is trained by a trainer. We are our own trainer, like self-partnering, whatever you call it. Yeah.
Self-illuminated masters.
Self-illuminated. Turn on the light. So now, we're at the top of the hour, and I'm looking in the wrong folder. Yeah, there we go. That would work. How about, yes. Well, let's start off with this, which is Daydream by The Loving Spoonful. And welcome back to Ever Beyond with JP, tonight with Andrew Bartzis, the Galactic historian. At this moment in history, it seems. Cause this
linear time history.
Yeah, all right.
not omnidirectional time or 9 or 10 color time.
In no time, in a historic moment in no time. Hang on a second. What the hell is wrong with this thing? I think is this the one? No, this one. No, that didn't work. That one. No, that's not working.
Having a Doctor Who moment with your TARDIS.
Yeah. My chameleon circuit is hello. Take off the 10 decibel.
Have you listened to the Dalek meditation tape?
Oh yeah, that's fabulous. Relax. We used to play it regularly. Or Dave Corso used to play it regularly.
I remember that.
Just to bug people. All right, so I don't know what's happened now.
I had a Dave energy come to me a couple of weeks ago, really, really interestingly.
All right, tell me. Go ahead.
I was working on healing myself and going through the people that had passed in my, the part of my journey, and I was thinking about Kevin Smith. You remember the presenter Kevin Smith that died?
Second time mentioned today. Yeah, go on.
So I was visiting Kevin Smith in the other world, and Dave came up, and it was an ironic moment because there's still parts of Dave that are actually living. It didn't die. Stubborn Dave. And he and Kevin Smith had this, I just want to call it, throwing the wrench in the machine's plan. And it was like this 6-hour conversation about an energetic insurgency of what we could do in this world. Dave's Vietnam vet stuff, all the stuff that he learned as a super soldier was basically all distilled into the 6-hour conversation of how we could present to the world an energetic insurgency that could bring the sacred geometry system to its knees.
Wow. And has it been happening since then? When did this happen? When did you hear this?
June this year.
June 7th. So it's funny, somebody also mentioned Kevin Smith today. So
how did that come up?
Just in a random message, people say, I'm sure you do as well. You're on Facebook and people send you, oh yeah, I remember this and da da da. And who was it? Just trying to find the little post there. There we go. Yes. It's actually in connection with Robert Stanley, and that Kevin Smith died on this person's birthday the day after the interview that they sent me with Robert Stanley. It's just like one of these little fun, weird little connections. But there you go.
I became very close friends with Kevin. Very, very close. I was on his show 3 times, and after the first show, because he hadn't had a psychic on his show in like 10 years since Sylvia Brown pissed him off. And I was the first psychic on a show and blew him away. We had hours. You know how we used to talk afterwards? I would do that with Kevin for 6-7 hours until 3-4 o'clock in the morning, 4 or 5 nights a week for months in a row. And sometimes Dave would come into these conversations too. And when Dave and Kevin would, talk about their top secret stuff, shit would go on.
How fabulous. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
To the people who didn't know Dave so well, there was a lot that went on behind the scenes. Obviously he was a little more candid on when the mic was like everybody is, because, you don't want to be, you don't want to be too much like a soldier and swearing like a soldier on these things, but, sometimes it happened like that. But, at the same time, he would tell us about some of his old, adventures in the, and things that he would remember as a super soldier. Mm-hmm.
Like when the 80s, when his team members started getting killed 1, 2, 3 at a time, and they all had this meeting in Las Vegas, just outside of Pahrump, and they basically went on a tear, taking the Cabal systems down and basically did $45 billion of damage in a month, and they said, if you don't stop killing our people off, we're going to crush the whole system. Because they were all trained. That's what they were trained to do.
Yeah.
Bring a whole system down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, that reminds me of something that my spirit guides said to me years ago, that it'll be their own creations that will be their undoing.
That's right. So. And that's why this so the irony of the energetic insurgent when last year when my co-host Natalie died, I'm going to tear up at this, but one of the last things she asked me on her deathbed was to do the energetic insurgent because she knew I knew about it. She knew I could make it a document and spread it to the world. And I'm a kind of person, everything that I do, no matter what it is, I de-weaponize and defang every word that I say. Nothing that I say can be used as a weapon against us. But everything in that energetic insurgery can be, that energetic insurgency. So I have my own moral dilemma. And then when I began the conversation with Dave and Kevin, they already knew I knew. And it was expanding that energetic insurgency. And I went through a process of writing a significant portion of it down, and it ended up being, about 200 pages of an energetic insurgency handbook against the sacred geometry systems, physical and non-physical.
All right, so that's another thing, Andrew. And I'll preempt this so you can take a breath. But for many years, I've been hearing about a corruption in something as fundamental as sacred geometry.
Yep.
And that the Merkaba is bad, or the Merkaba is great, or the tetrahedron is terrible and the triangles are good. All this stuff left and right. Can you demystify it for me and sort it all out? What is the distortion, and what is the undistorted geometry? I still can't quite get it.
It's not about what you think. It's about what you believe. It's still a placebo-based reality. And all these other advanced consciousness mechanics that have been brought in that use different forms of geometry were brought in from other worlds that are not a placebo-based reality. That was their fundamental source frequency. So when you have multiple source frequencies from multiple celestial frequencies as an ideology passed on from lineage to lineage to lineage, you have those that have an affinity for one or the other. But they might be born into a lineage that has an affinity to something different, but their soul is saying go to this one, but all their lineage attracts is the other one. So neither one is good nor bad. Now, there are people out there that say the chakra system is bad, and I say, well, if you choose to believe that, that's your choice. I cannot be in judgment of that, but the chakra system is the universal expression. It's not just here. Without it, you can't manifest as the DNA light frequency. Light does not need a medium in which to propagate. The DNA is the medium in which light can propagate and have an infinite experience. And it's the chakra system that acts as the filter from the many frequencies of time so we can store a memory that ultimately ages us as a soul, not as a physical density. All sacred geometry is still good. It is the intent behind it that makes it nefarious or distorted based. So most sacred geometries used in negative frequencies are trying to distort time. What era of time am I in? If this is the flower of life from 7 million years ago, am I in the 7 million years ago era of time, or am I in this one which we're in third density and it means jack shit? Just something for you to think about, and takes you down a mind trail that may have some level of discipline or sacred discipline beyond it, but it's still a mind trail until one understands there are many forms of sacred geometry. There's no one path to illumination. That's the big joke we're all experiencing. My way is the only way. No, there's an infinite amount of ways.
So, there's nothing wrong. So there's nothing wrong with my tetrahedron. Go ahead. So
there are other technologies that can modify and amplify certain types of sacred geometries to be very enhanced, which then, like moth to the flame, you get attracted to and go down a mind trail of karmic resolution that's not yours.
Karmic resolution that's not yours. So you're trying to fix somebody. Who else's karma are you fixing?
All the people that have died from war, all these war memorials that have sacred geometry cities around them, that have a government that honors war and doesn't pay for its vets, so on and so forth. And they're linked to the Babylonian money magic system, which is another sacred geometry system that's trying to say the debt that we have in physical life passes on to spirit.
I see. No jubilee at death. Interesting. And that's basically what they've been trying to say, or what they've been saying, which is why the Catholic Church seems to own the world, because it said so. How does it actually have any authority that it's, or permission that it's, gained from somebody? But are you saying this is, no. You say this is a placebo-based reality, which means that, from what I understand you're saying, is that whatever we think it is, it is. Is that right?
Yes. We're creating, manifesting beings with our own bubble of reality, who doesn't realize that we are infinite creator beings with our own bubble of reality, and we are all sharing a dirty energy underwear of one mind, massive, unsovereign reality. Many of those first shows I talked to you about, we should have be 8,000 and 10,000 individual bubbles of reality on the surface, each with its own unique frequency of time. Before Roman numeral time came in, everyone kept their own local time.
Yeah, that's true. So, Roman numeral time, being the also the 60-12-12 thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's trying to hijack what? Sacred geometry belief systems from our placebo base.
So, here's the thing. Is the second a universal measurement?
No.
There's a thought.
Moment to moment to moment time isn't measurable until we look at the totality of life experiences as a soul in our life review.
And that's only therefore to just kind of separate them. And it's only.
I'm going to paste something in the chat room for you to read. It's really short. It's about choice. Go ahead and just read that out loud, and we'll talk about this one.
You like me reading, don't you?
Yes. your incredibly powerful London Scottish voice.
What is a choice? Each individual has their own view of what a choice or non-choice is. Each person must ask themselves, what are the mechanics behind my choices? And what are the choices I made that made a timeline of choices the chooser of choice points must adhere to? This may seem difficult to understand, but is the most basic form of self-understanding. The timeline of choice you made to become a being of the now, with the opportunity of the unlimited choice points.
Okay? This is literally where we are right now in human consciousness development. It's truly understanding the mechanics of choice and what we adhere to as previous forms of placebo-based enhanced reality.
That's right. So, and this, you know, as I said, this is why I wanted you on, because there seems to be choices going on right now. Presumably by the people who are making, who are choosing to, what's that word you use? Melt down. There's melting down. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
I will. Just one second. I want to read this other part. This completes it.
Oh, you got more.
Each choice and sub-choice within a set of choice points creates a subconscious map of adherence of choices that helps define our reality. This reality is based on all of our choice points combined in the ever-present moment of the now. Can you see the relation between choice and reality functions? If you can change the reality function and choice point order to manifest multiple choice point sets that override, outcreate, or disregard the previous sets of choice points, if you should so choose.
If you should choose. But, so what it's about is understanding reality functions. I mean, what I'm reading is this reads like, a computer programming manual.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is something that I'll just say in a very hard frequency last year, a part of the passing on. So, a choice to become a signature-free frequency match for non-distortion comes with the mantle of responsibility to one's own level of awareness. It will be continuing choice to live life daily as a sacred point of view, so uncharted waters become charted courses of action with defined routes and resources that aid the seeker of knowledge on their own path to self-discovery. This relates to your meltdown question. Now, we have public figures that are on full-on meltdown right now, and I simply use David Wilcox as an example, and there's hundreds of others that are going on. A week ago or 2 weeks ago, somebody cut the brakes on his car. No, we already found out that he didn't take it in to have his brakes checked because he was lazy. And then Pete Peterson, his closest confidant, is having all of his stuff illegally taken. No, his house has been under foreclosure for 4 years, and it finally is getting kicked out. And yet all these millions of dollars of stuff that David was supposed to inherit, why didn't he go over there and help the guy? Why didn't he pay for his thing and get him out of that? Again, multiple sets of meltdowns publicly from people's private lives because David made a choice to go down that route to self-fear. Okay? No longer selling synchronicity keys, no longer selling awakening, no longer selling that other stuff, which made him a superstar that he was during that era of his choices. Okay? Others you can apply the same thing in just different scenarios. They made choices to go through their own shadow frequency because they are not practicing what they preach.
When the cognitive dissonance gets too much, it shakes the building to bits.
That's right. Okay.
Yes. I was going to say something about cognitive dissonance is a word that people don't get much. They think it's a dissident. But,
yep.
which a cognitive dissident is quite there's an interesting concept, you know, it's but, I'm a dissident because I've got my cognitivity. Go ahead. I'm just bubbling.
So I want you to read this next one that I just put in. It starts with the essence. And this will take beyond what's melting down for people to understand how to choose their own path.
The essence of the teaching of being a signature frequency match for an experience has many variables, outcomes, themes and methods of entanglement. Each distilled down to its very essence represents a choice that does include your level of consciousness application of the sacred. I'll take a bigger breath for this one. Each distilled down to its very essence represents a choice that does include your level of consciousness application of the sacred and how effectively you use your sacred discipline to make a clear separation of sacred learning versus recreational learning. When one engages the genius within the mystical teachers, one when one engages the genius within, comma, the mystical teaches us every day about the great wonders on the great path to self-illumination, with our divine co-creative selves manifesting the peacemaker, peacekeeper, as our signature frequency match for these era of light times we live in. So the 7 future generations have something to inherit that is not war and poverty in a repeating cycle that never ends. Yeah, definitely we want to see the end of that.
Right, and we do that by becoming the essence of the peacemaker and peacekeeper. Each will come to their own process of getting off of linear time and seeing themselves as the nonlinear peacemaker and peacekeeper based on their conscious application of the sacred daily art of living in their seen and unseen world.
And making peace within themselves.
Correct.
So that, yeah.
Now,
it's funny that, does peace ripple? Is another
Yes.
frequency, isn't it? It is like it's not like peace is a non-ripple that absorbs other ripples. It's a ripple itself.
Yes, and then peacekeeper or peacemaker is a very high frequency form of peace that has essence and emanation behind it.
Essence
Now,
and emanation.
Distortion was your main question. Now, we are mainly dealing with the distortion of love in this world. It is what the fundamental rules that they tried to change, to confuse us and dumb us down at what is divine co-creative love versus what is forced evolutionary love. Non-hierarchical order is not inherently a distortion. It was used and applied in this reality to use some nefarious ways. So distortion of the hierarchical order for one's personal gain in a material world that's constantly challenging its own hierarchical system. The elite ruling class owning a global system of chattel or cattle. The elite class guiding a collective to believe it's not a collective. Technological control of DNA done with direct intentions of limiting the unlimited point of view. Each of these are aspects of hierarchical order that we choose not to be a match for in our sacred discipline. Understanding how the hierarchical order is used in this upside-down, inside-out world of placebo belief is the challenge for anyone mired in mediocrity. Okay? The elite class keep us dumbed down and with personal competition, materialism, consumerism, and instant gratification. That is the global infrastructure of distraction out there. And we must eliminate our global infrastructure of distraction from our awareness, our perception, and that is sacred discipline. Enough to say global infrastructure of distraction, you mean nothing in this moment, because I am a no-time sacred discipline being engaging the fullness of my spirit to have an experience that is my choice, and my set of choice points of adherence no longer from the past.
Experiencing the now moment, and this is the point of unity, consciousness, and of what you call it. It's a dimensional. Oh, blah 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. It's looking at things from a more centered point of view, really, rather than being extreme about things. Let's ground it out here. Oh, by the way, I've been doing some great grounding. I got a new, sort of building a new fire pit outside, and just moving a couple of rocks every day because they're great and heavy things. But I've been sitting and grounding myself out by the fire the last few days, and it's been very, 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 very beneficial.
Yeah. One of the things that I like to talk about on my radio shows is called telling your story to the fire. Because know thyself is the most important part of self-healing and self-nurturing. Knowing when you're tired and you're burnt and worried to the bone and what it takes for you to heal. The discipline of telling your story to the fire is there is an essence that you have created that is an element of fire, and that you are transferring through your process of spiritual alchemy who you are, and what you've experienced in your memories. No matter how colored, good or bad it is, the actual process of telling your story to the fire makes you know yourself better and expands your ability to perceive who you are and who you can be.
I think, you're saying telling your story.
Who you are, your whole life,
Yeah.
as much as you can.
It grounds, it's literally grounding out because it's happening, everybody needs a witness.
Exactly. Everyone needs a witness.
So, that's great. Yeah, and, I've been getting more, like I remember we had a conversation some months ago, and we were talking about doing fire ceremony and helping to move things on. And it's been kind of hard for me. It's really hard to get into it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've been sitting just watching the fire and I'm starting to see Hebrew letters coming up in it. And I'm like, I wish I knew what that meant. But, I'm because they always say, the Hebrew letters are like, the letters of fire. And,
well, you happen to live in Scotland, which is, I got a bunch of multidimensional tunnels that directly connect to the Egypt-Israel area.
That's true.
The Irish and the Scots all came from Egypt, all right? Mm-hmm. So they were connected. So that's one aspect. The ancestors of the lands are trying to speak to you through the fire, through symbology and sigils.
Well, listening to the local radio, Galactic, they broadcast in the local language. Sometimes I can, just listen to it and just listen to it. It sounds ancient and, calming and home-like.
Yep.
It's very nice to listen to. I remember when I first moved up here and just tuning in with a transistor radio. And, that sounds like Hebrew. It's got this, very ancient feel to it. Is there anything that you're picking up about about anybody in the local area trying to get through you?
You have plenty of ancestors that are trying to communicate to you because you're doing a public radio show with multiple producer slots. So you have all of these ancestors that are trying to give you sigils and symbols of power because you produce for others, as well as produce and create your own content, as well as have your own life and love life and journey into your own seeking of knowledge and healing of yourself. So yes, you have lots that are trying to communicate to you. And what? Symbols of power. What is a symbol of power? Something for you to use in the moment as part of your a la carte system to instantly draw upon divine creation, inspiration, and dreams.
So there is a lot going on.
They're trying to plug you into the infinite, and you no longer to use a 110 power cord.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's I always used to call it broadband for the soul.
Yep.
To try and to see the universe in a conversation at every moment. Every moment is a bit like I'm led to think of I Dream of Jeannie. There's this old TV show about a guy who has a genie girlfriend, or no, Bewitched, where everything was magical, or Snow White, where she's got a continual conversation with nature. But I really have the feeling, and it's like awakening an idea that you knew but you didn't know is like the fire talks to you. The fire does. It always talks to me. I need to know when the fire is going. And so my fire, whenever it's definitely going, it goes BAM! Big click. And, it's on. The stove has been lit. And, the fire is taken. So what I'm seeing is that we're continually in contact with the spirit, the high spirit, because fire is a very high frequency thing.
Have you ever had a conversation with somebody by the fire and it makes a popping noise at the height of your conversation?
Oh yeah.
That's the fire talking to you. And when you start telling your story to the fire just by yourself, it's an individual conversation just with you. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden cracks and pops and spirals and smoke all are part of the pattern recognition at hand there.
Oh, and I have to say, the particular smoke that we get, what I burn is oak barrels. Well, when we're not burning bits of the dismantled greenhouse. But we're burning. I got a shed full of oak barrels that come from whiskey brewing, and
That's alchemy. That's serious alchemy. You're burning, right?
I mean, this is it's very old stuff. You know, these like a cask is maybe 100 years old
or more.
They
could be 300 years old because the alcohol is preserving them.
Exactly, but what it is like they're originally sherry casks, and then they're made into whiskey casks because the taste of the sherry. But there are millions of these things, millions and millions of them, all over Scotland. You know, like massive warehouses with barrels full of whiskey. Anywho, the smells and the aromas that come off this. As the fire is burning and as it's coming up, because, you know, off gases and aromas, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And what would be a cool idea for you to do is to grab a handful of these, you know, these oak planks that I've got and bring them inside and do significant prayer work over them for days in a row, like an hour a day for like 4 or 5 days, and then kind of put them in a bundle and start your fire. And put that bundle on all at once. Okay? Just put them together as a bundle so that there's a rapid release of your spirit prayer that's still bound to those original frequencies of trees that were born in a time, that had human hands, that crafted them into planks, that made them into a barrel, that had a living life force of alcohol and cherry in them, because it had what? Yeast, sugar, all those living frequencies are a part of that fire now.
Ecosystem.
That's right.
Yeah. And they all, literally, the spirit, we're talking about literal spirit here, and literal spirits, because it's the same thing, isn't it? We are an oil.
Yes, because spirit is spirit. That's what it was alchemically created for. So another thing you can do is grab some smaller pieces and soak them in water so they're very wet, and then stick them in your freezer so they're solid. And then you put those on top of your fire, and if you can get a bunch of them are frozen, you will have ice, steam, alcohol, spirit magic. It'll literally lower the fabric of reality so you can make major manifestations.
Wow.
Now, I do that regularly here, where we're here in the winter, where I'll have big logs and I'll put them in a wheelbarrow and I'll soak them for 3-4 days, and then when winter comes, everything goes frozen solid. And then I'll have a big fire going, and I'll put these big ice wood things on top, and within 25 minutes, it's pure steam, and the center cores may take an hour, even with this hot coals underneath it, for it to defrost. It's pure magic right there. Pure steam magic.
Well, dreaming of genius, huh?
That's my choice to go into that level of personal sacred discipline. For what purpose? Communication with myself, or the spirits and entities working with me and through me.
So that's quite an interesting, cause it's bringing all of these, elemental dimensions, like the solid. You've got your ice and your wood, and you've got your fire, and you've got the nature essences in there. So,
as well as the yeast essences. That went on to be drunk by someone that has a life-death review. That yeast has a life review, and the essence of that yeast still has a life review. That's somehow part of your great experience of a fire.
Oh, there's a thought. Bringing in all of the people who drank a dram of that whiskey out of that barrel, and who drank out of the wine of the barrel. Very interesting.
That's how interconnected we are.
Excellent. So, here we are. This is Ever Beyond Radio on Ever Beyond Radio with Andrew Bartzis. It's the 28th of August now, just past midnight. And we've been talking about the passing through of these moments. Now, we were talking about this eclipse. This eclipse seems to have kicked a lot of people's asses.
Yep.
And as you were saying before, it's one of several. Yep. When can we expect the next boot to arrive, as it were?
Well, it all depends if between now and the next one, they actually learn to engage sacred discipline and sacred recreation versus recreational learning. If you make sacred discipline a choice, it will be far less impactful on you. As long as you are making yourself remain in mediocrity and not doing anything to change your higher self or your bigger self, the next one and the next one will kick your ass even worse than this one, and worse and worse and worse and worse, until such a time you can no longer function in the reality, and bifurcation is a reality for you, meaning going back and repeating the mistakes again, while others move on. That's that separation of densities, bifurcation of frequencies. We are no longer a signature frequency match for those that need enablement and need codependency, because they are holding us back from our sacred journey to the path of the stars and beyond. As legacy truth holders of our mantle of self-responsibility being equal to our level of awareness and nothing more.
So, smoke magic, fire magic, ice magic. I was also thinking somehow of the ice, what was that? The ice gods. The ancient Nordic ice gods. Ice giants, that's what they were.
Yeah.
Do you know?
They were actually invading type species.
Yeah, what's the deal with the ice giants?
They came to steal our water and ice. Because our water is programmable. You kind of already know that. So if you come down here and take 500 cubic miles of ice and bring it to a world that's gone through some form of cyclical destruction and bring programmed water of life force here to that world, you can begin doing what with it? Give it like a blood transfusion.
I see.
Or raise that planet higher frequency. And then they'll bring the dirty water from that planet and turn it into ice and stick it back on our world as equal balance.
Oh, that's not good.
Yes.
And that's what they did. And it was Odin who defeated them.
And a number of others, yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good old Odin. We like Odin here.
Good old O.
So, yes, ice giants. No, that's an interesting thing. Oh yeah, so Andrew, talk a little bit, if you can, about the big old trees that we see all over the world with these, these flat, what appear to be mountains now, that if you zoom out, they look like tree stumps, but like huge.
I saw.
And
so
very much like the hollow earth, they say there are 10-mile high trees.
So there are hundreds of these all over the world. And they've known about them for a very long time. So the newest one that NASA was just talking about was the Devil's Tower in Arizona, which is actually a giant tree. Okay?
Which is the famous do-dee-doo-doo-doo Devil's Tower.
That's a tree that was brought from another world to be anchored on our surface world during one of our many rift war destructions where time frequencies were blending over because you have these rift holes opening up and times were blending together. So they brought these ancient trees from other worlds to close the rifts. And those trees volunteered to do that. That's what those are. Surface worlds, they were there to plug a rift. A destructive rift that could have eaten the whole world. Or worse,
so
the whole universe.
It's a bit like planting pine trees on sand so the roots hold the thing together. I see.
Yep. There are certain places where in California and other areas where you have these forests where all you literally see is the tops of the trees and everything else has been covered by sand dunes. Like 40, 50 feet below it, the tree's still there, but the tree slowly rots out. Literally, it slowly rots out, and you could stand in one place and all of a sudden fall into the former cavity of the tree.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So, abseiling time. And inside all of these things will be little ecosystems as well.
Correct.
Won't they? As this massive thing rots away, just bigger things, it's a different scale of rotting.
Yep.
Fabulous. And quite fascinating. So, go ahead.
They actually made that public. it's ironic that I was really surprised at that one. Really surprised.
Because it's,
right, should have gone viral and woken everyone up. What? That's a damn tree? But the global infrastructure of distraction keeps people away from going, holy pop, look at that. Let's go look at it. Why aren't there throngs of people going there now? Because your iPhone and your TV is more important than the next instant gratification on your list.
The Instagrat. So if people took a piece of that rock with them, I mean, are there crystal structures underneath there as well?
Yes. So a lot of that tree is petrified wood,
yeah,
or alchemized into some other form of stone.
Oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Yes. People are saying this will be a good show to listen to in the archives. It certainly will be. I'll probably also put this on YouTube. Go ahead.
Let me turn the tables and ask you a question. Okay. Yeah, right? So now in your view, what is the most significant piece that's come out in the last year that people have missed? Just plain missed, like the tree thing. That's been out for 5 months now.
Yeah. Well, I think learning, here's a thing. Learning from, in my own world, I think is my only gauge really. And things that have, learning about yeast for a start, like last year, and how that's all connected with the sugar thing and with the weight thing, and then once I crack that, then that opens up the thing that goes into the trauma thing. As far as I'm concerned, there's still not enough. But certainly Pizzagate has been one of the big things that people have tried. When you say missed. It's been sidelined, and I think it needs to be brought back to the fore. I'm not sure if there's anything that I've discovered this little thing and nobody else has seen this. I probably have, but I've probably not remembered it myself.
There are thousands and thousands and thousands of things out there that have already proven disclosure for 40 years. The global narrative is still being driven by the global placebo effect. What will it take to bring down the house of cards that's the global placebo narrative?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? That's always at the end of discussions like, oh, there's all these things, what does it take? What will it take? How do you defeat this thing, or not defeat it? How does it lose its power? How do you disempower it?
By claiming your power back in the out loud name it to claim it moment, and by making it irrelevant to your greater changes. That is the greatest thing we can do to this system of domination and control, make it irrelevant to our change. By creating such a fortified belief in our own reality that they cannot harvest us through the Babylonian money magic system or through any other inverted belief system that's still based in placebo of others.
Because otherwise you're just building their world for them.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is what Alex Collier has been talking about for a long time. Stop believing in their world. Stop investing in their world, because you're building their world for them. It's Monsters.
Exactly.
It's Monsters Inc.
Yep. So last year I came up with something called the Union and Communion Collective Consciousness Strike. I think I had you read part of that out. I don't know. Maybe I did. I don't remember.
There's been a few, Andrew.
Yes.
Was it long?
Yes, it was like 12 pages. The
12-page one. I might remember it.
Well, it's actually 19 pages, but at 12 pages at that era of time.
That was the condensed version. I see.
Yeah. And this is what goes to, you can go to my website, andrewbartzis.com, and just go to the Insights tab, and you'll see at the bottom there, Union and Communion Consciousness Strike. And it's a way to be on strike with all celestial DNA exchange systems, and all dimensions, time streams, galaxies, universe, and a way to shut the system down by no longer giving it your light or its ability to trade your DNA as a hierarchy system. It's very potent, and it has been healing a lot of people all over the world. There's been probably about, almost 200,000 downloads of it since I put it up. So it's going to make its own movement as people begin to realize it's your universal movement of one to be able to say no in every dimension, time stream, galaxy, and universe to forced evolution using war to create for you. To use Babylonian money amassment debt to create for you. No. What part of no don't they understand? And it teaches people how to make collective bargaining with their collective consciousnesses that are using forced evolution as their form of ideological belief as natural organic evolution.
So
that's what the elite did.
Yeah. So when you're saying a forced evolution, they're saying, by setting us these challenges, they're playing the part of we're helping them evolve, but it's not. It's just too harsh. Is that right?
It's their version of evolve. It isn't the only version of evolve.
I see, yeah.
Their creation isn't the only creation in existence worthy of illumination. But that's what they believe.
They define what illuminated is.
Yep.
So I've asked our audience to post any questions. If anybody actually, I'm sure people get what we've been talking about. It is good stuff, and it bears kind of listening to, in a couple of weeks or something. There are encodings, I think, that
I have said since day one of my shows, I speak to everyone in layers and layers and layers and layers. And the more you go back and listen to it, the more layers we'll uncover over and over and over again.
That's true. So, quick question from Ray. Is there an Earth on the opposite side of the sun?
No.
There we go. No, there isn't. Okay. And is there an opposite side of the sun?
Yes.
Because we trail behind the sun slightly, don't we? It's like a spiral motion.
The sun does at times take dodecahedron shapes as itself is transmuting 7-color time, becoming 8-color time. Our sun itself is also going to be becoming an 8-color time sun. So there will be moments where you might see 2 suns, 3 suns, 5 suns, because it's the sun itself. Our sun has been teleported a half dozen times before it was actually brought here to create the galactic ascension machine. And every planet that is here was teleported here to this section of galactic cluster. Nothing existed over here until an ancient species created the solar system from the ground up.
So it's a kind of lab sort of situation?
Disneyland.
Oh.
It's a placebo-based experience. It's a Disneyland.
Oh, I like a holodeck.
It's a good way to put it, yeah.
Another day, another holo.
Yeah. Or solar system holodeck, yeah.
Mm-hmm. See the layers. So, we got about 10 minutes. What's coming next? What should we be prepared for? And instead of feeling, we just say, look, here it comes. How can we, what are the likely avenues of where the heck did that come from? You know what I mean?
As long as we are waiting for something to happen, we're still in expectation. And expectation is the greatest limitation that we have right now. You know our minds fill in the blank. No two observers see the same thing. No two expectations are the same thing. And we have a global narrative that's being run by our expectations and placebos, by a mob of people projecting their adherence to choice points. When we no longer adhere to the previous choice points, and no longer about the mob projecting placebo-based expectation, we get to be in our own little bubble of reality, not based off of what the global narrative is telling us to expect, and then they're doling out one by one, like carrot and stick. Stop expecting the aliens to come down. Stop expecting the RV to change. None of that's going to happen. Believe in yourself. Heal yourself. So you may heal your family, your tribe, your nation, and the 7 future generations who are here to incarnate too. And you are a part of that 7 future generations.
So here's a question. There's two questions. Is the sun electric, and is the sun a portal? Or is it a gateway into our Disneyland, and is that a gateway into our Disneyland?
Let's say the sun is the hotel outside the Disneyland that can house all the dimensional frequencies. It is a portal or a toll bridge. And the toll is you must have ancestral relations to something in the solar system for you to get there via soul-based commerce exchange between solar systems. So yes, it's a portal, and it's its own hotel, but the 66 planets in our star cluster are the individual aspects of Disneyland. Earth is where you come to get your PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. You know, what it takes to be in the Mickey Mouse suit, you know, getting kicked in the nuts or screaming kids always yelling at you.
Yeah, we love that bit.
Okay. But also on Earth is where we get to actually use the term 100% of our free will. The other 65 planets out there, you're lucky if you get 45% of your actual free will at any given lifetime. Here, at any given moment, we can summon the 100% free will and do something with it. That's what Tesla proved.
Right, so you can, you know, and the more off the wall it is, the more nobody's going to guess what you're about to do.
Exactly.
And prohibit it. So, yeah, I see what you're saying. From Lotus Eaters, there's a lot of talk about multidimensional reality. Can you explain the difference between this and multiple timelines? It confuses the heck out of Lotus Eaters.
Well, you exist in linear time as a linear I am agenda-driven being who does not have awareness that there's non-linear frequencies of time out there and fake linear frequencies of time out there created by a group of elites that are trying to dumb us down by separating our soul shards to incarnate on many lines so that you are not powerful in any one line. When we go to omnidirectional experiencing 7-color time as a rooted, grounded spirit, that's our connection to this planet, who has then given us a bubble of reality to define our own time in relation with it in the essence of elements that the planet has given us as creationary tools. These other fake timelines and other dimensionality processions don't have the same tools, though Earth can offer them in a dreaming frequency. So understanding multidimensionality is simultaneously existing and living, but the consciousness of the I am now, learning how to perceive through perception without deception filters the essence of what the other dimension or reality is, linear or nonlinear, and for us as the experiencing I am agenda-driven being, to record that in memory that we can perceive, understand, and learn from, and then repeat and have more illumination with.
So, I hope that's clear. So, next question from Anthony. Is the sun the 6th dimension? Do we see different dimensions in our solar system?
No. Our solar system is a hologram. Not everyone sees the same thing. So everyone that looks up at the solar system actually sees something different. And that's why our solar system is a projected hologram. by technology that's on the moon and other out-of-phase realities. So if we were to see what's up there, we'd instantly wake up and go, hey, that's not the right fucking star pattern. Sorry, right star pattern.
That's okay. We'll edit that bit out. No, we haven't. Anyway.
The sun is the 12th dimension.
Say again?
The sun is the 12th dimension.
And do the dimensions, do they arrange in a linear fashion?
Oh.
Is it like we're the third dimension because we're the third planet out?
No. Dimensions are not linear, they're omnidirectional. And layered over each other, creating a uni-world of perception.
Talk a little bit more about uni-worlds. You were talking about that before.
We have a planet that has a celestial being inside it known as Earth. That being, at any moment in time, can step on our journeys, but it won't. It is projecting its experience of sharing a reality with us to nurture us so we can advance in consciousness and eventually become planets ourselves. So, this I am now agenda-driven linear time frequency being will want to perceive, percept, concept, and have conceptualizations of what other forms of livingness is, beingness is. We can transverse this hologram at superluminal thought pace if we want, but to truly learn it, we must learn from inside our own hologram as a light frequency propagating in a DNA instrument of experience that has been household and stored by this planet as a Akashic record for us to come and incarnate in, as part of that great sea of consciousness that has many infinite streams of consciousness within the ocean of awareness that is the universe.
And so, at this point, indeed, Vanessa, computer, end program. Thank you so much. It's been a nice time hanging around by the fire. Maybe I should have a little fire jingle, fireplace, just make a recording of the fire and just play it. Anyway, Andrew Bartzis, andrewbartzis.com, the Galactic Historian. What's your YouTube channel, Andy?
Galactic Historian.
There you go.
Or just type in my name. You're there.
There you go. Have a nice dinner. Thanks, everybody. This has been Ever Beyond. Good night.
Beyond.